testaments of the sacrifice, the hours, the time, the blood, and the lives that have been taken and lost. We are so thankful to be here tonight as an entity, as a strong, vile force in this movement. We thank you, each and every one. And before I turn this into a sobbing crybaby, I'm going to have Ray Krone come up one more time.
Come on, Ray.
Ray.
Come on, Ray. Come on, Ray. Come on, Ray. Come on, Ray.
I too, it's hard to put into words after watching that.
Leadership.
Knowing the history, what we've been through, the ups and downs, the family we built, and the number of fortuitous circumstances, the things that had to happen at the exact perfect time for us Exonerees to be out here to be with you all. The family we met, the friends that we made, those people that defended us and stood by us that didn't know us at all until we ended up in that hardship of death row in prison. To grow, as you might have heard in there, the first time I've ever met Sister Helen was looking through the cell. The bars of my prison on Arizona's death row. I think 10 years later I've had the opportunity to actually work with her to fulfill the inspiration she had to see what better to fight the death penalty in the voice of somebody that walked that. And the vision to grow that to what we've become. And those folks here, that all of us, as a family, fighting this horrible, horrible punishment, something that is not worthy of a country of great America as we are. We are that family, the membership that brought us together, the reasons we are here. Is that same strength that God has been putting to us to say this is the right thing and I know nothing else what to do. But that strength still comes from unity, from numbers, not from any individual. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity again to introduce the beginning, the inspiration, the continued support and motivation that we have at Witness Innocence to continue to fight against death penalty, to join as a family. The one that started us all is Sister Helen Prejean.
Because I'm short. You know how when you like see the movie Selma and you see the people marching just to have minimum justice and see them being beaten by the police, and you see that movie and then they sing that song, Glory, at the end of it. Well, that's what we're doing here tonight. We have a bunch of Nelson Mandelas here. All of us, because human life, it comes with suffering. But to have faced the years, and it amazes me how we tick it off like 28 years, 17 years, in that cell, in that confined space with the sensory deprivation, day in and day out, and knowing you're innocent, and that the whole system worked against you. In the United States of America, which it's held up to be such a democracy for the world, for liberty, freedom, and to be able to be alive and standing here. And what I love about Witness to Innocence is that these men and women who've been through this torture, Kwame, you named it, torture, extreme mental or physical assault on someone rendered defenseless. Our Supreme Court isn't anywhere near being able to recognize the torture of the death penalty, but the people are getting it. And it's always going to be about the people. It's always going to be about ordinary folks like us that wake up, see something, and get in there and do something about it. That's what makes us all, that's why we're all in this room tonight, and it's a blessed thing. I mean, Jesus said, blessed are your eyes that see what you see, and ears that hear what you hear. Because you can have ears and never hear. Because your ideology, the glasses you put on, keeps you from being able to see and hear, because you have a prejudiced view, or you preempt what you think the reality is. But here we are, and blessed are we to be here tonight. I can't, you know, a lot of people say to me, hey, Sister Helen, how you still doing that, man? You going to those people on death row like I'm the one who gives. I'm the one who, there's that sweet angel nun going to death row, pouring out that love and that mercy on those poor wretches. And what I receive, because all the best stuff, all of it that's worth anything, is mutual. And if it's not mutual, if somebody doing all the giving, somebody doing all the receiving, that's off. That ain't right. Something's wrong with that. But we know about that mutuality tonight, don't we? And because it's community. So I just want to give an appeal here that what I love about Witness to Innocence is people are giving their lives to something bigger after they've been through torture. But we need to support this group. I mean, Joseph Campbell, you remember when he did The Power of Myth? Bill Moyers interviewed him, and how important myth is and the stories we tell ourselves as a society. He talked about money as congealed energy. Well, people, of course, are congealed energy. I mean, and you look around us, the congealed energy and what it's brought forth in life to us. But it's to just say to you, to those of us who have been privileged and given resources, to be generous toward Witness to Innocence. They really need our help. Because the guys and the ones who are making it work, they're giving themselves over to something bigger, but they're still involved in their own healing. I mean, they've been traumatized, they've been tortured, and they're trying to stand up and pick up life and live it, but it's a real challenge. And so to stand with them as our brothers and our sisters, as those that have been wounded by our society, and justice demands, when the institutions don't come forth and say, oh, we're so sorry for what happened to you. How many prosecutors do we know have apologized and just said, I am so sorry for what I did to you, for how I hid the evidence. I mean, you look at John Thompson's story, all the stories, hiding the DNA, you know, perverting what justice is supposed to be. And then you have these good lawyers that step up, the pro bono people who step up, good people with good hearts and sharp minds who get in there with us. I have come to appreciate so much the lawyers and the legal community who have done their part in this. You don't have to be a lawyer. You just have to be a person who cares and catches on fire with this. This is one of the key issues of our day. One of the deepest moral issues of our day. And all the wounds of our society are in the death penalty. Only poor people, and we know what happens when you're poor and you can't resource and get a lawyer who's going to fight and make the Constitution work for you. Overwhelmingly racist and right out of slavery, right out of that overwhelmingly that the victims who have status, and often that corresponds directly to, was it a white person killed or a person of color? And then maybe the deepest wound of all is to think that we can heal our wounds by practicing more violence. And that false promise made to victims' families who are in their own trauma and loss. You wait 15 and 20 years, but now you're going to get to come and sit on the front row, and you're going to get to watch as we kill the one who killed your loved one, and that's going to heal you. The promise of violence is healing. And what makes the extraordinariness of these human beings is they were innocent. They went through all of it, and they were innocent. But Denny LaBeouf, a really good friend of mine, who's a wonderful human rights lawyer says the most vulnerable person stepping into a trial are people who are actually innocent. Because they know they're innocent. They go, well, wait, when they hear my story and they hear where I was, I got my, friends who can just say where I was. Well, I mean, they don't know that they're in any danger. They don't know what prosecution is going to do to twist the narrative, to keep their eyewitnesses away, to put jailhouse snitches up there, whatever they do, to hide the DNA blatantly, as they did with John Thompson, the DNA in the blood on the ski mask, and hide it. And even then, when it begins to come out, keep them in a death row cell as long as they can. So it's a privilege to be with everybody here tonight. And I just really want to ask you, though, that whatever you were thinking of giving to witness to innocence, if you were thinking of that before you came to this here party, but I want you to think of it now and double it. Double it. Whatever you're going to do.